Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host, Cole Shelton, episode 85 at a UFC Long Island. We got a good lineup for you. First up, we're going to be joined by one half of the co-main event in Michelle Waterson to preview her fight against Amanda Lemos and how this fight kind of came together. Obviously, Michelle was booked against Amanda Ribas a couple times. She then pulled out and wrote on Instagram that she might have career-ending injury. She kind of clarified that. She said if she didn't pull out of that fight and get the rehab, it would have been career-ending, but Michelle says she used to train with Amanda at Jackson Wink, which is obviously really intriguing. She said they did a lot of time together training. So that was when Amanda was a bantamweight. So she says it's hard to really take much away from that. But good chat with Michelle, who believes she has all the tools to win this fight and is excited to fight back in front of fans. We're then going to be joined by Dustin Jacoby to preview his fight against Da Jung. Justin, this is obviously Dustin's first fight. It's being a ranked light heavyweight. He's on a nice run since coming back to the UFC. Beat Justin Denton's debut, beat Maxim Grisham. Had that controversial draw to Ian Kutalaba where a lot of people thought he won. Then he's beaten Darren Stewart, John Allen, and Michel Oleg-Zaychuk. He actually thinks Da Jung is very similar to Oleg-Zaychuk, but he thinks the big difference is now that he's fully healthy, he'll be able to kick, as kicking is a big part of his game, and he couldn't do that in his last fight. So he's really excited to show off back in front of fans. We're then going to be joined by Felice Herrig, who obviously announced her retirement after her last loss, and then kind of surprised a lot of people when it was announced she signed with Bare Knuckles. She came back after a 2-year hiatus, got submitted against Karolina Kowalkiewicz in June, announced her retirement, and then quickly signed with Bare Knuckles. So kind of talked about why she announced her retirement, whether or not she thought that was actually going to be done, and how this Bare Knuckle kind of came together and when she's looking for her debut. We then close things out talking to Cody Brundage to recap his big win over the weekend against Tresean Gore. We spoke to him before the fight. He thought Tresean was a regional level fighter, didn't think he was that good, and he kind of proved that, and he knocked Gore out in the first round. He's now 2-1 in the UFC. His loss is a short notice fight, a couple days notice against Nick Maximov. Now he has back-to-back first-round stoppages, so Cody's on a bit of a roll, so good chat with him to recap that fight and what he kind of wants next. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're joined by UFC strawweight Michelle Waterson, who's back in action. Michelle, how's it going?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing well. We also did this when you're supposed to fight Amanda in Columbus, and then you kind of posted on Instagram that you thought you might have a career-ending injury. Like, when did you kind of get cleared then? Because this is a lot sooner than I think I even expect you to come back then.
Right. I think a lot of people took what I said. And obviously it could have been a career-ending injury. But what I was trying to say is if I didn't take care of it, it had the potential of being a career-ending injury. It's just one of those things that I kept trying to fight through, and it was pushing back. And it was basically my body saying, hey, you need to stop and take care of your body. And fighting professionally for over 15 years now, and not knowing how much longer I have, I think I'd rather go into the cage with, out of respect for myself, my fans, friends, family, my opponent, as healthy as I can. So I took a step back and took care of the injury. And for sure, it was the right move. Like I said, it was something that could have, stopped me from fighting completely. So I took care of it, and it really motivated me to take care of myself, take care of my body, be healthy, and train smarter.
So was this about the right time frame then, the middle of July?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel great. As one of my strongest camps, I feel like I've come back stronger, more motivated, more hungry.
And then how excited were you when you found out that it would be a fight in front of fans in Long Island? Like, it's not just at the Apex.
Well, that's what I just kept telling the UFC, like, hey, next time you book me a flight, please, 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 please. I don't care, where it's at. I just want to fight for the fans.
And with Amanda Lemos, like, was this someone you had your eye on, or was this kind of a surprise that you got her?
Not really. I thought maybe I'd be able to fight. Obviously, I don't know how long me and Amanda Ribas has been trying to fight, but I thought that maybe that she, would hold out. And so, but she had just come off that fight with Jessica Andrade. I thought she was doing real well before she got caught, actually, and they hit me up with the opportunity, and went back and talked to my coaches about it and thought it was a good matchup.
What have you made of her run in the UFC? Because like she started her career out at 35, lost to Leslie Smith, then took like a couple of years off, came back at 115, and then has looked really good. And I thought like you said, like she was having a lot of success against Andrade before she got caught in that choke.
Right. Sometimes it takes you a while. Everybody has their own journey. Amanda actually trained with us in Jackson's here for a little while when she would fought at a heavier weight, and so I know her, and I just think, like I said, sometimes it takes you being away from the sport for a while to like wake you up and to make you realize what it is that you need in order to get fired up. And maybe it was her dropping to 115, getting a little bit more serious about her nutrition and her training to be able to fire her up. I don't know.
Did you ever like train with her a lot then when she's at Jackson's, or was it more just because she was at 35, like you guys kind of stayed
No, we
away?
trained. I think she was training at 25 when we trained together.
Mm-hmm. Do you take anything away from that going into this fight, or do you think it was just so long ago and like both you guys have changed, it's hard to really gain anything from it?
Yeah, I think we've changed so much since then. Like you said, she's dropped down a weight class. She's moved camps. She's just, to me, she's a more motivated fighter. But obviously, there are things that you hold on to as a fighter that just become like habitual. So there are probably some things that she feels like she knows about me, and vice versa. There are probably some things that I would know about her. But I think it's still going to be a great fight.
And then it just because of the Rebus fight being on and off so long, you've been off for a while. Like, do you think that time away, like the ring rust is real? Like, do you think that's going to affect you at all?
No, I mean, I really haven't been away for too long. I've been like 1 year was my last fight, and I was training for another fight, and then I had the injury. So, and when I had the injury, it was just, a couple of weeks of rehab and back into training. So I really haven't been away for that long. I mean, I talked to my professor about that, and he's like, it's funny he was saying it's funny to him that fighters have to have fight counts, because if you're like pumping gas at the gas station and somebody comes up to you and just tries to rob you or gets into a scuffle with you, you don't tell them like, hold on, wait, I need an 8-week fight camp before me and you can do this. You just go. And I don't know why it really sunk into me when he said that, because it's like I have close to 25 years of martial arts experience. At this point in my career, my conditioning is good. I just go in there and obviously I train with the best people in the world at Jackson Winks, and there's always an influx of new fighters that are hungry coming in. And so as long as I come in and put in work, I know that I'll be ready.
I know Holly had her fight. Like, are you training with her for this one, or is she kind of taking a bit of time off from that last one?
I see Holly, she's been kind of busy with her boxing Hall of Fame and everything like that, but she comes in to support me with my rounds. She helps me when she can. And so she's always there for me in my corner when I'm getting ready to fight, and vice versa.
And then style wise, you and Amanda, both strikers, like, do you think that's kind of makes for a fun one where should stay on the feet, but then again, like your wrestling and grappling kind of gets overlooked by a lot of people.
I've been trying to take these girls to the ground for the last couple of fights, man, and none of them want to go to the ground with me. But it's all good. Like, that's why it's MMA, So yeah, you're right. We both are stand-up fighters, but wherever it goes, I'm ready.
And then, how much do you look at the Angela Hill fight? Just because you fought her, and then she fought Amanda to kind of her toughest test, where she extended Amanda past that first round, and then you kind of saw Angela started to have a lot more success.
Right. I actually thought Angela won that fight.
Yeah, so did I.
I was watching it, and I watched it back again with the commentating off, and I thought she won the fight, man. I thought Angela did great. I think Angela fought her after she fought me, but her wrestling had improved like tremendously between that time, and I thought that she was doing a good job, pressuring her, taking her down, and I don't know. You just never know what these judges are thinking.
Is part of the game plan then to try to like extend this fight? Because I think the longer it goes, like I think it probably favors you more.
Well, 3 rounds to me is like a super
Yeah.
fast fight, because I want to say probably, my last fight was a 5-rounder. The fight before that was a 5-rounder. So I've gotten used to training for 5 rounds. So three rounds is kind of like a sprint for me, which is great. So because I can just go out there with a high pace and hold that high pace, knowing that I have the energy to go. So yeah, like I said, you can never really predict what's going to happen in the fight, but I know that I have the feel. I have the feel to go 5 hard rounds, so I'll dump the 5 hard rounds into 3 hard rounds, and that's the pace that I can keep.
Do you think that's a big benefit then? Is like 3 of your last 4 fights, you've had to kind of pace yourself for 25 minutes, where now 15 minutes, like you can kind of bring up your output and volume a lot more?
I don't think have the ability to pace myself. It's just kind of like when you get in there, you just go,
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of enjoying being in the moment and having the ability to capitalize on openings when they present themselves.
You've won a lot of different ways. Like, how do you kind of see this one playing out then?
I would love to have, a knockout of the night. I've had submission of the night. I've had fight of the night. I would love to have a knockout of the night.
And then if you go and do that, like, where do you think that puts you? You're always a big name in this division. Like, you're always like a win or two away from getting right near the top again.
Right. You just never really know. And you're right. My entire career, I've been one fight away from fighting for the belt, my entire career. And so I kind of don't focus on that anymore. I just go in there to win the fight, and whatever happens after that happens.
And then since you've been away, like the division has been shaken up a lot. Like obviously Carla's the champ. Like, does that kind of give you excitement? Because I actually thought you beat Carla back at 249. So like, does that give you more excitement where you've already fought her and you now that she's a champ, like you could get pretty close to fighting her again?
Yeah, it's always nice when the division gets shaken up. The strawweight division in the UFC is super neck and neck. Everybody within the top 15, I would say, are super hungry and deserving to fight for the belt. So I just go in there and do my thing, put on a great performance, and see what happens.
And then what you make of Wei-Li's win over Joanna? That was a pretty crazy knockout.
It was definitely a crazy knockout. Something that it's always that way, is what we tell people. It's like, it's always the punch that you don't expect coming that knocks you out. But why? Because you don't expect it coming. So it's like, when you're able to like kind of throw in some of those unorthodox moves and land them, and I'm sure it was probably a cool moment for her. So, hats off to her. I thought she took advantage of an opportunity and was able to make it wasn't even like a split-second decision. It was a in the moment decision,
Just 2 more things. Like I know you always like having your family at your events. So like, how exciting is it where they can actually finally be there again with you?
Oh, I'm really excited. Like, Ray has been at all my fights, and then the pandemic hit and she couldn't come to them. And it's just, it's just, they sacrifice so much when I'm in fight camp that I want them to be there and be with me when I, go step into the octagon. So I'm really excited. I'm excited that she gets to come.
And then just last thing, I know when you were off, you were doing some acting in a movie. Like, how was that experience?
Oh, it was amazing. It really was. There was such an amazing cast, such an amazing director. It's going to be a Netflix film coming out the end of this year, either the end of this year, or the beginning of next, with Tom Hardy as the main character, and Gareth Evans is the director. Which, if you know action movies, he's an amazing action director. So he definitely has so much respect for martial arts and what true martial arts is all about.
Is that something you want to do like post career, is get into acting more?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so cool. How cool is it that I can still continue to do martial arts, but in a different realm? I just, martial arts has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. So, venturing off, obviously, film fighting is way different than fighting inside the octagon, but I'm excited to do it. The reason why I fight is because it challenges me, and acting would be a new mountain for me. Being able to step inside the skin of a different character and live that character is a huge challenge to do good. So I welcome challenge, and I would be excited to be able to do some martial arts flicks and be like an action actor. I think that would be something very, very fun.
Well, Michelle, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this.
No worries. Thank you.
All right, we're joined by UFC light heavyweight Dustin Jacoby, who's back in action in front of fans again. Dustin, how's it going, man?
What's up, Cole? Thanks for having me. Everything's good. Camp's going well, and we're about 3 weeks out now, so we're getting down to the nitty gritty.
Uh, Timing wise, like this about the right time frame, like not like a huge quick turnaround, but not a long layoff either after your last one.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great time frame for myself. I had some injuries before my last fight that I was battling, and things that I needed to get healed up after that fight, which I was able to do. Enjoy a little bit of time off, and yeah, we've been getting after this fight for about 10 weeks now, so enough time to prepare, and I'm very confident with going into this fight.
How much better do you think you will be now that you can actually use one of your main weapons in your kicks, as you couldn't do that in your last fight?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be night and day difference of a performance. I think that not being able to kick is such a big part of my game, and facing a guy like Daeun Jung, who's a really good boxer, and he throws some heat, so I'm going to need to chop those legs down early and often.
A bit disappointed it's not a ranked guy, just especially because you got in the rankings.
Yeah, a little bit, but again, I think that there were some options available. I just wasn't ready to fight. They had given me a couple names for June, and I just wasn't able to compete because of the injuries. I had to let my injuries heal. So they gave me a little bit of time, gave me Daeun Jung, who they've offered in the past. Him and I, it just has never worked out. For whatever reason, that fight's never came about, and it's going to come about July 16th. And he's a great opponent. I mean, he's 15-2, 4-0 in the UFC with the draw, and I think they're trying to push him, a Korean guy, a big Korean guy, in a guy that can be marketable. So, giving him an opportunity to climb into the top 15, and I'm there to defend my spot.
And then how big of a benefit too is that Anthony's fighting like what 2 weeks after you, so you guys are probably in camp and helping each other out for around that same day.
Yeah, unfortunately, Anthony is not around Factory X for this camp. He is doing some things different, but hopefully we can get together in the future and get that figured out. He just had some things going on that just didn't work out, and I'm gonna miss him this camp for sure.
And with Jung, like, what have you kind of made of his UFC run? Like, looked pretty good. The one kind of knock was that Sam Alvey fight, which was like such a weird one looking back that it was a draw. 'Cause I actually thought Sam should have won that.
Yeah, you know what? He's taken out some good guys, some big guys, but they were relatively just green and young in their career. And he went up against a vet like Alvey, who, you look at Alvey, I'm like, man, I think I should beat that guy 10 out of 10 times. He's one of those guys, but I tell you what, until you get face to face with him, you don't realize how gritty he is, how much of a vet he is, and how durable he is, and how hard of a fight that would be. So, I can't really take anything away from that. Alvey's a great competitor. He's been around a long time. So, Jung, he's had some good wins in there, and I got to go out there and be on my A game and take him out and defend my spot.
And then is this a fight that like really excites you just because I think on paper it's similar to your last one where it should just be a kind of striking fight for the most part?
Yeah, I think I really like the fight. He's a strong boxer. He likes to come out and throw some heat. And of course, I'm a kickboxing guy. I love the stand-up battles. So I'm really looking forward to this fight. I think it's a great style for the fans, and hopefully we can go get a performance of the night bonus. That thing's been eluding me, so I'm gonna do my best to make sure I get one of those.
And back in front of fans, like how big of a relief? Because with the fight nights, you aren't too sure, and then probably said like a location to be determined, and it comes out that it's Long Island.
Yeah, I'm super pumped about that. That's what we do it for. We do it for the fans and of course to for ourselves first and foremost. But fighting in front of fans, brings that extra energy, allows us to go out there and show off a little bit, show out and show everybody what we've been working on. And again, you can't match the energy that with fans are in the crowd versus when they're not.
And then the cards in ABC one, which obviously gets a ton of viewers, and they try to stack like it's a very good card. Like, does that only add to it? Like being able to be on ABC and being on a pretty stacked fight night card?
Honestly, I don't think too much into that, but that is a good point. I saw it was on the ABC, and when I first saw it, I thought that was really cool. I thought there'd be a lot more people tuning in. So yeah, man, that to me, I don't look into too much. I've got a job to do, and whether it's at the Apex with nobody watching or at a packed arena at the UBS Arena and on ABC, I still got to go in there and do my job. So I'm looking forward to the fight for sure.
The one kind of downside of it, when they do these ABC cards, they're like afternoon cards. The card starts at like 11 a.m. on the East Coast, which is like what, 9? Because I think you're 2 hours behind me. So is that going to be weird? Like you'll probably be fighting around like probably what, 2 p.m., 3
Yeah,
p.m.
yeah, I'm thinking fighting around 3 p.m. And that doesn't bother me either. I know with the Apex, there most of the time I fought, I've been early on in the card, so I've been fighting early there. So, and we train every morning, 10 a.m., 10 to noon, and I get most of my training in noon to 2 as well. So I'd be fighting right around the same time that I'm training and competing on a daily basis. So I think that really plays into my favor as well.
And with Jung, like super durable dude, like his one loss was like his second pro fight or third pro fight. It was submission. And like we've seen in the UFC, like even Sam landed some good shots. Like, how do you kind of see it playing out? Just because you have a lot of power, but then again, like Jung's one of these guys that seems to be able to take a lot of shots.
Oh, for sure he is, man. He's super durable. I'll give him credit on that. And I'm in there for the long haul. I'm preparing for a 15-minute war, and I see myself coming out on top. And may the best man win that night. He's super durable, so I can't, similar to Olajecki, when I fought him, I can't go in there and try to put him out with one shot because he's not going to go away with one shot. I gotta let them add up and don't go overzealous at the beginning. And even if I get him rocked, I gotta maintain my composure because he's like I said, super durable and always in the fight.
Just having like fighting Michelle in your last one, like a big plus, just because very similar guys where they're super durable, and like even in that first round you had him hurt and you spent a lot of energy, and now you kind of know how to pace yourself against these guys that you might think are hurt but can recover pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And then my last fight, I wasn't able to run or do a lot of cardio going in. So once I blew my wad, man, my wad was gone. But my whole career, I fought really tough guys. I fought guys that are really durable, and I think that's why I'm at where I'm at. I'm not here for just fighting tomato cans. You can look at my MMA resume, any of my fighting career, kickboxing, boxing, whatever it is. I've never fought a tomato can, so I fought a bunch of good guys and guys that have made me better, and I've been able to take chinks of their armor away from them, and just different moments in the fight. With my last opponent, just going to war with a guy like that, I'll think of him. When I'm entering the octagon, I want to do well for him and put on that. That was a super tough opponent, and I'm sure he knows how good he is. He's probably thinking, he's watching this fight thinking he can take out Jung. So I need to go in there with my best, and I'm looking forward to it, man.
And I know the one guy you're working with a lot, just because I talked to him last week, was Cody, and you guys are going like back to back again. Like, how big is that? Where it's once again you guys are fighting so close together, so you guys are both getting fight shape.
Yeah, it's super cool, man. It's perfect. We're in camp together where we've been grinding on each other nonstop. And Cody's such a strong wrestler, man. He's really strong everywhere. His stand-up game is getting so much better every day and every week. And I'm excited to go to be in Vegas with him and watch him perform and get a big W, and then carry that momentum into my fight the next week.
And then you like, where do you think that win kind of puts you here? Like, you 15, I think you beat Jung. Like, I think at rank I has to be next for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I don't see myself moving up because I'm not fighting somebody higher than me. Maybe I climb a spot if it's a spectacular performance, who knows? But at the same time, my goal is to go in there and get a win against Jung and then fight a top rate guy, man. The division, I believe, is wide open. And, there's a bunch of dogs ahead of me and guys that like to throw down. So I'm looking forward to accepting any of the challenges that I'm given and climbing the ladder and hopefully, God willing, health permitting, one day compete for that title.
What's the goal then for this year? Like already your second fight. I know it's a bit later to have your second fight because you did 4 last year, but like you beat Jung. Like I think you can probably get 1, maybe 2 more in against someone in that top 15, top 10.
Yeah, my goal at the beginning of the year was to get 3 in, to go 3-0. So I think we're right on pace. I heard some rumors that the UFC may be coming to Denver in November, which would line up perfect with my schedule. I would love to hop on that card, being here in from Colorado and living here in Denver. But I got Jung to get by first. First and foremost, is what I got to keep my focus on, and that's what I am focused on, man. I have him here July 16th, and we'll see what happens once that fight goes down.
And then light heavyweight division, like we haven't talked since a lot of it's happened. Like obviously, Prohaska is the new champ. Like Blachowicz beat Rakic. Like what you kind of make the whole top division kind of get shaken up like that.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Jerry, man. I think he's like the 205 Tony Ferguson, very
Mm-hmm.
unorthodox, just very unpredictable. You don't know what's coming with that guy. Extremely durable, extremely tough. Congrats to him. Hats off to him, and hopefully one day I can, get the opportunity to compete with that guy. That'd be really cool. But a guy we haven't seen as well here lately is Rakic. I'm excited to see him come back and get into the fold. I think that's another really good light heavyweight in our division, and that'll be interesting to see who holds on to that title or if it gets shuffled around a little bit. But with John Jones being gone, man, it's wide open and everybody's hungry and it's there for the taking. So I'd love to get the opportunity to compete for that title one time.
And then timing wise for you, like I think this fight's kind of perfect because there's so many big light heavyweight matchups like happening like a couple weeks after you. Like you have like obviously Anthony's fight against Magmed, like you have Tiago versus Jamal Hill, you have the 2 light heavyweight fights in London, like the Oosterdamir Craig and then Gustafsson Krylov. Like, are you kind of looking at those fights as just timing wise, and those guys are ahead of you that probably maybe one of those are who could be next?
Yeah, man. You got to figure one of those guys is next, but I'm being 100% honest when I say I haven't looked past Jung.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's a very tough opponent. All of those guys you mentioned, of course, they're on my radar. I know that with a win, any one of those guys could be next, but none of that happens unless I get past Jung. So I got to really dial in. I got 3 more weeks here to focus on him and make sure I get that job done, man. Make sure I get my hand raised, and we'll let the cards fall where they may after that happens.
Just a little bit of golf, last kind of thing. Like, how you been playing? Have you been going out there a lot, or just kind of camp cut it down for you?
You know what? Camp has cut it down a little bit here. Recently, I usually play I play a Wednesday game every week. I try to play once on the weekends, and I have a lot of options. Tuesday, Thursday, any other day of the week. There's always somebody texting me about a round. But we're getting this deep into the camp. I had to tell my coach. My coach is hooked on it now. Mark,
Mhm.
he's been golfing really well. And we got another coach, my buddy Randy Caruso. We always play every week as well, but I told them they're playing right now. Actually, I'm like, hey guys, with camp going on right now, I told them last week, from now until my fight, I can only play once a week, and it's on Wednesday, and I got to get my recovery in after that. But yeah, man, the game is a little hit and miss. I've been up and down. It hasn't been a great year for me, but I'm right at an 8 handicap. It has increased a couple strokes, but I'm still a single digit and still out there, having fun and playing decent golf. So I can't be mad at it.
Yeah, you got me by a bit. I think I'm like 13 or 14. I think I'm 13 now
Okay.
this year. So I
Yeah.
you got me by a couple. You'd have to give
Yeah,
me.
the best I've ever been is 6, and
Well,
I was playing really good golf that summer. It was a couple summers ago. Kind of hung around a 7. This is the highest I've been here in the last 3 or 4 years. And I was almost a 9, and then
mm,
it's dropped here. And I put a couple nice rounds together, so it's dropped a little bit. But yeah, if we ever play, Cole, I have to give you a few strokes.
just the other thing, have you done the Barstool Classic? I was trying to remember when that was.
I have played in the Barstool Classic 2 years now. It was in April for us.
Yeah.
We played in Tennessee. Um, didn't finish so hot. Through 6 holes, we were at the top of the leaderboard. We were 3 under, and my partner and I, and we just fell apart. We missed a couple big par putts that really took the wind out of our sail, and I think next year I'm feeling really good about next year. My partner and I both, is a buddy of mine here in Denver, great golfer, a 4 handicap. So I think next year I tell you what, man, take some experience and to get through those things. You get in there, you get super nervous, man. It's one thing to go play golf. It's another when you're playing in a tournament, you're playing with a random couple you've never played with, and everybody's competing for the same prize. And, you're putting everything out. There's no gimmies. There's no, you're playing with your buddies. Oh, that's good. No, everything's put out, which makes it even a little more, get the nerves going a little bit more. But it's a great event, and I really do enjoy it.
Oh, well, Dustin, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, for sure, Cole.
All right, we're joined by one of the newest members of the BKFC roster, Felice Herrig. Felice, how's it going?
Hi, good.
Obviously we got to start right there. Like, it kind of surprised a lot of people that you signed just because you announced your retirement. Like, how did this all kind of come together?
Well, I guess I announced my retirement from MMA. It was more like I'm retiring from MMA. I'm done. But I started off as a kickboxer and boxer, and that's all I've ever wanted to do. That's what I've always really loved to do. It was just that, when I got into MMA because there were no opportunities for women or really even men, like as a boxer or a kickboxer. So I transitioned into MMA. And then over the years, it's like I did my thing in MMA. I got good at grappling, but I never really loved it. It was just like, if I want to keep fighting and make a living fighting, and then you feel like, because, even before my knee surgeries, like I was always in the top 10 in the UFC. So it's not like I was bad at MMA. But I always just loved boxing, like particularly. And then I just think like after the 2 knee surgeries, it's just like grappling is just so hard on the body, like the knees, like, you got to focus on, first off, I had to drive an hour to the gym, but that's just, for MMA. And then if I wanted to do jujitsu, I got to go 45 minutes away. And then my boxing was like 25 minutes away. And then you got to do strength and you got to put it all together, and you got to wrestle. And there's just like, I feel like for me, like with all, like, I have, I've openly talked about, like, I have anxiety, and I feel like having so much to deal with, especially when I don't really like want to deal with it anymore, it was just kind of like, what's the point, So like I said, I think people were, under like the conception, under the impression that I retired completely, that I didn't want to fight anymore, which was never the case for me. I did want to still do boxing. My boxing coach, Shannon States, is who I started with, and he's always been my favorite coach. He's been the one I've wanted to work with, and I felt like over the years, like every time like I train with him, it's like, oh, I can only do boxing like 1 day a week because I gotta, do wrestling 2-3 times, and I gotta do strength and this and that, and it's like boxing is like the 1 day that I look forward to, and I have the opportunity to fight for Triller as well, and just do straight up boxing. Bare knuckles, again, it's like that's where the opportunity is. And that's, the organization has just like grown over the past year. So I'm really excited, like especially not just for me, but for all strikers. Because if you think about it, a lot of strikers got into MMA, for the same reasons, so that they could have an opportunity to fight. But now things are coming full circle to where, strikers can like make some money too. And to be honest with you, they like tripled my UFC contract. So you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, hard to say no to that then.
Very hard.
And then with bare knuckle, like, did they reach out to you, or did you kind of tell your management, maybe reach out to them? Like, how did that kind of come together?
My manager is already working with them, with other fighters. he had known like prior to my like last UFC fight, like I was like, listen, I don't know if my heart's in MMA anymore. I feel like my heart's still in fighting if it's boxing, you know? And so we had talked about, you know, maybe talking to Bare Knuckle, but I hadn't really mentioned it to him after, you know, my last MMA fight, because I was just like, I want to take some time to like think about what I really want to do, you know? And he just called me up one day and he said, so I got a contract for you if you want it. But it was exciting for me because I feel like almost like a new, like, you know, like a new chapter in my life. Like I get to reinvent myself. I get to kind of go back to doing my fight outfits. You know, I used to do like, like fight themes, and I used to love like designing, custom making my own outfits. And then, you know, at the UFC when Reebok took over, I didn't get to do that anymore. And that kind of took a piece of like another part of the sport, you know, a piece of what I loved away. And so now I get to do that again. I mean, I'm a very stylish fighter, at least I try to be. So I get to do that again. And I'm like, I feel like I want to be like Madonna or Cher, just constantly like reinventing themselves. And I don't know, for me it's exciting because it's like, it feels like something new, you know, and exciting, but it's really, and then I can just hone in on like the one aspect, which is boxing, which, so I don't have to think so much about, oh my gosh, I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this, you know. Also, I will be fighting at 125. I don't think I've ever cleared that up with anybody.
So that's exciting, and not having to cut all that weight then. That's probably a big plus.
Well, I think too, and I really realized this like in my last fight. So like, I mean, people like, you know, you don't want to say like, oh, I'm getting older, and, you know, I am getting older, and your body changes, and you don't always like want to cut weight anymore. Like, cause it's really not good for your body, you know, and I've been doing it for 20 years. So I've done it like 60 plus times. But like the last fight, like I tried to like stay bigger and wanted to like lose more in water weight. And then like I lost like 3 pounds in water weight. And then at like 4 a.m, I had to like get up and like lose the last 5. And it was just almost like my body, like, I feel like wants to stay bigger now. Like, it's just like Felice, like, and I'm so strong at my more natural weight. And I feel like too, like with MMA, it was like a lot of people like teeter between weights, or you have to like fight at the lower weight just because, you know, some people have the ability to cut so much weight in water or whatnot and be like so big come fight time. So 115, like 120, 125 would probably be my ideal weight. And like, that's what I fought at, like with kickboxing. It was just, you know, MMA with like the weight classes, and like the grappling aspect like plays like a huge factor in like the reason for like wanting to cut weight, but more so because so many people cut so much weight. I fought so many big girls in my career that went on to fight at 115, but then are now at 125, you know, Courtney Casey, Justine Kish, like Alexa Grasso, like so many girls, like Barb Honchuk, like so many girls that I fought in my career, like are at like, you know, were so much bigger than me, like in the fight. So it's like, imagine if I fought at 125 in MMA, like how even bigger the girls would have been, you know?
Something you mentioned a bit earlier that I want to touch on is you said you could do boxing stuff with Triller. Like, I know Bare Knuckle has a good relationship with them, and I know Bare Knuckle allows fighters to like do other promotions as well. Like, is that part of the contract where you can still take boxing fights and not just restricted to Bare Knuckle?
I'm not, but that's a part of my contract. I don't know if that's a part of other people's contract, but that was like a big thing that I wanted. And I really, you know, because again, like, I feel like, you know, with MMA, well, not with MMA, like even with fighting, it's like, you're always like kind of, I'm going to say like compensating or like making sacrifices to do like for instance, like I wanted to fight, but I couldn't, you know, do boxing or kickboxing anymore because I had to do MMA, and because I was in the UFC, I couldn't do boxing, I couldn't do kickboxing, I couldn't fight for other organizations. So even doing bare knuckle, it's like, yes, I'm boxing, but it's still kind of not boxing because like a brawl, I wanted to have the opportunity to go back to doing something that I loved, and really wanted to do boxing, like no matter what. Like I figured like it's not even about the money anymore because I've established, a great career for myself, and I've made money, I have money, so I don't not that nobody wants to fight for money, but it's like I don't have to like fight for like ginormous amounts of money. Like I could have just been like, I'm just gonna do what I love and I'm just gonna box, and wherever it takes me, maybe I'll make a little money, maybe I'll make a lot of money, I don't know. But so I was really, I'm really happy with my bare knuckle contract and the opportunity to do both.
And then with bare knuckle, like how much I've talked to like Jimmy Rivera, like John Dotson, all them who's kind of crossed over, and they've said how much better training is, that you don't have to worry about the grappling and wrestling, and they're actually enjoying it a lot more. Is that same with you already, where you're having a lot more fun and it's not like, oh, I have to go to wrestling now or I have to go to this jiu-jitsu practice?
Oh my gosh, yes. Because the only real thing that I really, really loved about was always boxing. Even kickboxing. I was a kickboxer for a long time. And, I guess I loved kickboxing, but I was like obsessed with boxing. And it was a shame that it's like for the past 20 years, I've never really gotten to do what I love. And now it's nice too, because it's like, even with MMA, like you don't really always have the luxury to listen to your body, because first off, you're dealing with many different coaches who might not have seen like what you did yesterday, or might not have cared. Like, oh, you wrestled, well, you have boxing today, so you got to give it 100%. And you're like, but I'm so tired, and like they still have this mentality like they don't necessarily always care. But it's like with boxing, and it's like if you miss a day, like you can kind of listen to your body more and make it up. Before it's like, okay, so I have wrestling this day, and if my body doesn't feel good that day, then it's like my whole schedule, like then I gotta, like you have to try to fill in the gap. So you have to like go to an extra practice just because you're like, well, I missed wrestling, so now I can't, like, and then like you got to rearrange your schedule. And now it's just like simplified. Like I love boxing. I'm like, my coach listens to me. He knows where I'm at. He knows that he's worked with me for 20 years. So he knows like if I need a day off, he'll be like, okay, take the day off. Like if my knee's, like a little swollen or inflamed, he'll be like, okay, we won't do as much road work today. Okay, we're not going to run today. We're not, and it's like, it's just nice to like not have to feel like you have to explain your situation to so many different coaches, or if, I'm not afraid to take a day off if I need it. I'll be like, hey, I'm just not feeling good today. Let's train tomorrow instead of today. You know what I mean? Like instead of before with MMA, it's like it's just almost too much. You know what I mean? It was just always too much.
And then with bare knuckle, like when are you kind of hoping to make that debut?
I'm looking for maybe towards like December-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it too is just because I'm starting a yoga teacher program, and I really want to like, I feel like too, like with fighting, like I've given everything to this sport over the years. And that's another thing that you really have to do, like when it's MMA, because there's so many elements to focus on. But there's other, I'm trying to set myself up too for like what I'm going to do, like when I'm done fighting. And I really want to have like my own like wellness center, like with yoga and kickboxing and like a juice bar and, all that. So it's like, I've constantly put off like doing the yoga teacher training because it's like, oh, but I have a fight coming up, or because, like I don't have time. And like, I still can make time for both, you know what I mean? But like the hub of it, like, I don't want to be like caught in a complete training camp during the whole process of like the yoga teacher training, because then I won't enjoy that either. You know what I mean? My mind will be elsewhere. I won't be focused. And when I do something, like I always like to do it like 100%, like with my whole heart. So I just don't want to be like, oh, I gotta, you know what I mean? Like distracted with either or,
And with bare knuckle too, like only 2-minute rounds, like is that just going to be a lot better too, where you don't have to kind of pace yourself for those 5 minutes? Because 5 minutes is like, it's a long time to just keep going and going the entire time.
For sure. And I feel like you do pace yourself. And then, I mean, I just like the concept of 2 minutes is just like mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you know, going from grappling to striking, like even like the like muscle endurance difference. It's not like the cardio, like the cardio, like you have to have so much, like when it comes to MMA, like I said, muscle endurance, like cardio endurance, like strength, you know, like strength to like be able to grapple, like, and then going from like speed to power, you know what I mean? Like it just, you have to be so conditioned. And like, I'm not saying like 2 minutes isn't a lot, because you know, boxing rounds like are intense too. It's just a different type of intense, and not having to pace yourself is nice, because you know, in training, you know, like, okay, I can go for 2 minutes. You know what I mean? I'm like, I've done 5-minute rounds like for the past like what, like 12, 13 years. Like I can do a 2-minute-er.
When you make your debut, like, do you really care who it's against? Like, obviously at 125, there's like, you have the Paige rematch. There's like Beck Rawlings, Rachel Ostovich. Like, those are like the UFC veterans that are big names. Or are you not really focused on that until it kind of gets closer?
No, I'd like to just like get my feet wet first. You know, I'm not trying to. First off, I don't want to put pressure on myself. I feel like that's a big part of like, you know, I get it. Like everybody wants you to shit talk, and everybody wants you to be like, oh, call somebody out. And I don't really care about that. You know, maybe as I like get into it, maybe I'll have the desire to fight certain people. But right now I'm like, I'm doing this for me. Like, I just want to go have fun. Like I want to fight, but it's just like, whoever, you know, I don't want to put that pressure on myself. Like, oh my gosh, I called this person out, and now, you know, like now I gotta like perform. Now I gotta deliver. It's just like, whatever. Just, who do you want me to fight, bare knuckle?
Just last thing, like with bare knuckle too, like you kind of have to land your punch at the right spots. It's a lot easier to break your hands and stuff if you land on like the top of the forehead and stuff. Like, is that stuff you're already looking at in training? Is throwing the right punches and you just can't throw whatever you want just because you don't have any protection on your hands?
Right now, I haven't really been like training to like specifically like for bare knuckle. You know, I'm just getting back into like the groove of things, like with, you know, with boxing, and my boxing coach has, you know, a couple other bare knuckle fighters, you know, so we're going to work on those things, but those are very specific. Right now, it's like, let's just, you know, get back in the gym, just train because you love it. And like it's just like with MMA, when you have like a specific fight coming up and you have to hone in on like, you know, the small little details. But right now it's like cardio, conditioning, boxing, striking, like, cause you still like good form, you know, you always still want to have good form. And like, in order to like be very precise with where you hit, like you have to have the ability to be precise. You know what I mean? Like, so even when you're like going and, you know, working on pads, like working different combos or, you know, placement, like you don't necessarily have to like have bare knuckles, you know, you just, again, it's just like fine tuning it.
Well, just building off that, like, do you think your striking's going to be a lot better where now you don't have to worry about throwing a punch and then someone going for your legs or anything, where it's like, because then I feel like when MMA fighters cross over to bare knuckle, like their striking looks a lot better because they don't have to worry about the kicks or the takedowns coming.
Well, and that's the thing. And I feel like that's why I've always also loved boxing, because when I can just hone in on boxing, I have very good boxing. But again, like you said, like when you're in there and you're fighting MMA, it's like you might not always get to see your full boxing skills, because when you have to worry about kicks, like sometimes, you know, your stance is different, or you don't want to get in too tight because you don't want to get clinched up, or you don't want to get taken down, or like, you know what I mean? There's so many like elements to MMA to where it's like there's so many good boxers in MMA that you might not be like, oh, they're a really great boxer, because you don't necessarily get to see it, because like strategies are like completely different. But oh my gosh, just being able to like focus on boxing, like I'm there, man. Like I feel like people don't even know, you know, especially too, because even like in MMA, like people always talked about my grappling, and I don't know why people forgot about my striking. And I don't know if it's because I was only a striker when I got into MMA, so I like went to a jiu-jitsu, like a grappling based gym, and I made it like my mission to get good at grappling. And, you know, I did very, you know, well with that. I was successful with it, but like, I feel like people forget, or they just don't know, or they just choose not to know because they just listen to commentators who obviously don't know either, you know, but I have good boxing and I'm very excited to like get to showcase it. Like,
Well, Felice, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
All right, we're joined by UFC middleweight Cody Brundage, who got another first-round finish on the weekend. Cody, how's it going, man?
It's great, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we talked before the fight how the whole thing was you said the first round would probably be Gore's, and then after that you just kind of take over. Were you surprised that you were winning that first round and then you even got the finish that early?
I wasn't surprised. I thought he would come out a lot crazier because of all the flack he took in the battle fight. I thought he would really, really turn up the volume. He definitely turned up the volume, but it just wasn't. I don't know. I feel like I was seeing it, man. Sometimes you have nights in the office where you feel like you're seeing everything. I feel like I made him miss all his big shots, even the leg kicks. You know, he landed a few of them, but I feel like I checked the majority of them. He landed 2 shots to the head, I think, in the first round, and I don't know. Like I said, I'm not surprised. I know I have that ability to go do things like that. So, yeah, I'm happy with it.
And then with the knockout, like, did you kind of know right when you landed? Like, obviously you fell, but like, did you kind of know when it landed? Because I've talked to a bunch of fighters, like, they just know when it lands, like, it lands in the right spot. Like, is that what you felt like you kind of knew that you got him that perfect spot?
So all the knockouts I've ever had, I never really feel it. You know, I never feel the stroke when it, like, if it lands perfect. So I didn't really feel it, but as soon as I saw him drop like stiff like that, I was like, okay, he's out. And then you put somebody out like that, it doesn't take much to shut the lights off for good. That's why those shots on top didn't really have to be too hard.
And then after the win, you had like the best kind of thing in the night saying, "Oh, I thought we were gonna wrestle." Like, did you kind of have that in mind the entire time?
No, not at all. You know, I try to be humble. I'm very genuine. So like everything I say is like, it's what I'm feeling for sure. It wasn't like a thought out act or anything like that. It just kind of, I don't know. Like I have felt kind of disrespected leading up to this a little bit by a lot of people, in terms of them saying like Trayshawn's striking is on another level. He's going to KO Cody. If Cody can't get him down, it's going to be a long night for Brundage. And I just didn't see it, man. In all the film I watched, I was like, you know, no disrespect to him. He is his forte is striking for sure. You know, so if you look at the tape, you're like the easiest path to victory is Cody Brundage, but his strikings look good against regional level guys. If you go watch my first 3 fights, those are the guys that he's knocking out. And I knocked all those guys out in a minute. So, and I've only gotten way better, you know. I just felt like my striking was being super underrated. And, you know, even in the face-off, he's like, shoot all night, you know, you're going to wrestle all night. And I was like, you know, did whatever I did there too. And it was like, I don't have to just wrestle. I'm becoming more well-rounded. And obviously my wrestling is great and it sets up a lot of the other stuff I'm doing. So I didn't have it planned. I'm glad I said it. That's how I was feeling for sure.
And then were you kind of annoyed with everything he was saying in the lead up to the fight? Like, it seemed like he was totally overlooking you and on to like bigger and better things after you.
I wasn't really annoyed by what he said. I expected it. He's kind of a trash talker. He did the same thing to Brian Battle and then went and lost. But I will tell you, it was a super annoying week. I saw the kid more than I've ever seen any of my other opponents combined all week. And every time I saw him, he's coming up, sizing me up, like, let's go, and then shaking my hand, doing like this weird passive aggressive thing. So I was annoyed by that, you know, and so by the end of the week, I was like just ready to go fight, and you know, but none of the stuff he said bothered me. It was all expected. I knew at the end of the week we were gonna get in the cage and get in a fist fight. So people can say whatever they want, but at the end of the day, you're going to be at the highest level of confrontation. So everyone's got to answer for the things they say.
And then you were the betting underdog again, which I was surprised by. Like, I picked you in both your last fights. Like, I didn't understand why you were the underdog in either of them. Like, did that kind of catch you by surprise that people were putting? It's because especially Gore was only 3-1. He was 0-1 in the UFC, and like he didn't look that impressive against Battle. So I was surprised he was favored over you.
I'm not surprised. Somebody asked me about that backstage after the fight, one of the ESPN analysts, and I don't care, man. They can keep making me the underdog. I'll keep making my friends money. We know what it is. Factory X knows what it is. My team knows what it is. So the odds are just that. They're people that have never fought before trying to make a decision based off of highlights, which isn't necessarily the best way to do it. So no, I don't care. They can keep making me the underdog. I'll keep pulling out wins and having that story.
A bit disappointed you never got the bonus. I thought you might have got one.
I was definitely you never want to be like, oh, I expected that, but I did. After watching the card, I was like, man, I'm definitely going to get a bonus off this. Just the way it all went down, that they were saying he's going to wrestle. I got the knockout, pretty brutal knockout against this guy who was supposed to be this awesome striker. And the rest of the card wasn't necessarily, I didn't think that impressive in terms of finishes and things like that. So I was a little shocked I didn't get it, but it's all right. I'm sure people last time, I got it last time, and there were other options that the UFC could have gone with and not given it to me. So it all works itself out. So yeah, I'm not too bummed. Obviously getting a first round finish and a win and my second check, that's always money. So I feel good about that.
And we're like, what, 2 days after the fight? Like, your face doesn't even look like you got in the fight. I know you obviously going out for Jacoby's fight, but like, when's kind of that time frame for the return then?
I'm ready whenever. I'm going to be out there for Jacoby. And then my buddy Colin Anglin is fighting in my hometown, actually, in South Carolina. So I'm going to take a little vacation and coaching trip after Dustin. It's a busy month for me and my family. But then I'm back in the gym right after that. And who knows? Hopefully, like November. I've heard rumors that maybe they might be coming to Denver. I would love to get on the Denver card here. But yeah, we'll see. The UFC usually they call my manager and he's like, here's where you're fighting. Here's who you're fighting. So, I probably think a couple months though, 2-3 months.
Do you really care who's next? Because I think like after back-to-back first round finishes, like I think you could get one more and then you're on that top 15 kind of guy next.
Yeah, I don't care, man. I just want to keep getting better. Like I had a good performance, but there's still things I'm watching in that fight. I'm like, okay, I can't do that anymore. I got to do this better. So many areas to grow. And like my coach always says, we're just going to hide behind wins and whoever they give me, I just want to keep getting better. I'm only 3 years pro. That's not a long time at all. I've only been at Factory X for 2 years. So, I just want, like I said, just want to keep getting better. I don't care who it is. I don't care if top 15 is 5 fights away. We're just going to keep going through contracts, getting more money, which is a huge goal. I just want to get more money and fight those higher ranked guys for what it's worth, So, yeah, we'll see.
Well, I know most of the contracts run 4 fights. Like you're already 3 in. Like, are you already like going to renegotiate then probably before your next one?
I'm hoping to. Yeah, I'm hoping I don't have to fight that contract out. I'm hoping that they hook me up with something nice for the next one. I think they will. My manager and them have a really good relationship. They usually do a good job of working that out. So that's all on them. That's what I pay them the big bucks for. Jason House is the man. Iridium Sports Agency is the best agency in the game. So I'm sure they'll get me taken care of.
Oh, Jason and Ed make it so easy. Like they are by far make it easier than any other management. Like, and you guys all get good fights, and like he always gets you guys like in the UFC. Like I swear, anytime someone pulls out, it's always an Iridium guy getting that short notice fight.
Yeah, they've done everything they said they would do for me and more. I've been with them for a long time. I've been with them since I was only a 2-0 pro. So I'm riding with them till the wheels fall off.
And that's something I like what Iridium does. Is like they sign a lot of those young guys, and they just don't like poach other agencies. Like once they get to the UFC, and don't have to worry about building them up.
No, for sure. Yeah. I can't tell you since I made it to the UFC how many agencies I've had hit me up and be like, how do you like it with Iridium, man? And I don't even respond because I got it so good. And I'm so lucky that they picked me up and have stuck with me through the bad times too. We were having good times now, but they never wavered ever. So I'm lucky to be on their team.
And with this fight, like showing off your stand-up, like, do you think that's going to start putting like more respect on your name, especially with your striking? Like, you work with Dustin Jacoby like every day, who's one of the best strikers at light heavyweight. Like I imagine, like I don't get why people didn't think your striking wouldn't be good if you're working with him all the time.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like respect is so hard to get in this game. Like it's funny, like coaches always like you got to tune out the noise, which is social media and all of that. And it's hard sometimes because you go look at social media and everyone's like, Trayshawn is the far superior striker. That guy's got great stand-up, great knockout power. And then I sleep him and everyone's like, Trayshawn sucks. His stand-up's terrible. It's not. Cody must be pretty good. It's that kid must be way worse than we thought. So, you know, like I said, I don't care. My people know, my team knows. I'm going to keep showing them. Eventually you get the respect, but the only way you do that is keep getting wins and in impressive fashion. So I just got to keep putting it together.
I know you and Dustin are like good friends. Like, how much has he benefited? Where you guys seem like perfect for each other, just because obviously you have the good grappling and he comes to that kickboxing background. You kind of, his like weaknesses are probably your strengths and vice versa. You guys can help each other out on.
Yeah, it's been awesome, man. And not just in fighting, like he's just a good guy to have in your life. You know, he's a super solid dude. He does things the right way. He treats people the right way. He's a good guy to look up to on how to be a good person and good character in this sport, where sometimes it feels like those people are few and far between, you know? And so Dustin Jacoby is one of the good ones. Our styles obviously super, super compatible. They help each other. We help each other a lot. He's coachable to me, which I really, really appreciate. You know, I'm young in the game, but he's super willing to learn and listen to me. And obviously I'm more than willing to learn and listen from him as well. So it works out. There's no ego there. It is truly a really good friendship. We hang out a lot outside of the gym, and he knows a lot of things that are going on in my personal life and vice versa. So yeah, it's been great.
You ever go golfing with them? Like, whenever I talk to him, he always wants you to go out there and golf because like I'm okay. I'm pretty good, but like whenever he tells me his scores, I'm like, man, you would smoke me.
Oh yeah, I go, but I haven't gone with him because he's too good. I'm like, listen, I don't play enough to go with you. He's like, I think he's a 7 handicap, but he's the real deal on the golf course. And I'm like, hey man, I'm not going out there with you because I gotta up my game. When I up my game, I'll go out there with him for sure.
And just last thing, like obviously going out there to corner, I'm like, how beneficial was that going back to back again with him, where you guys are in camp the entire time? Is that something like you just want to keep on doing if you're not on the same card, just keep going back to back?
For sure, I would love for the UFC to keep putting us back to back. Being in camp together is the best. Not just physically and training, but mentally as well, you know, just bouncing ideas off each other, seeing what the other one thinks. You know, we're all going through the same shit together. And so it's nice to like be like, man, I'm super stressed about this. And he's like, yeah, me too. And you're like, oh, it's not just me. You're a vet. You feel the same way. Like, okay, this is just normal. So I love being in camp with him. I love having fights close together and riding each other's momentum too. You know, that's huge as well.
Well, Cody, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks, bro.